You're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution, a time when there's got to be a change. People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built, and the only way it's going to be built is with extreme methods. And I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Has history been really tampered with? New chronology theory complies with the most rigid scientific standards. It gives a coherent explanation of what we already know. It is consistent. Independent lines of inquiry all led to the same conclusion. The predictions it makes are confirmed empirically. New chronology goes by the following basic axioms. Chronology is the basis of history. Human evolution has always been linear, gradual and irreversible. The cyclic nature of human civilization is a myth. Likewise, all the gaps, duplicates, dark ages, and renaissances that we know from consensual history are fantasy and hoax. The accumulation of geographical knowledge as reflected in cartography is a gradual and irreversible process. The closer in time is a given manuscript to the events described, the less distortions it contains. There is no useless information in authentic ancient sources. So, why the mainstream historians do not gratify mathematician Academician Doctor Professor Fomenko thinks, laurels and medals. The Russians, because Fomenko asserts that there was no such thing as the Tartar and Mongol invasion followed by over 2 centuries of slavery, providing a formidable body of documental evidence to prove his assertion. The so-called Tartars and Mongols were the actual ancestors of the modern Russians, living in a trilingual state with Arabic and Turkic spoken as freely as Russian. The ancient Russian state was governed by a double structure of civil and military authorities. The horde were actually professional armies with a tradition of lifelong conscription, the recruitment being the so-called blood tax. Their invasions were punitive operations against the regions that attempted tax evasion. Fomenko proves that official Russian history is a blatant forgery concocted by a host of German scholars brought to Russia by the usurper dynasty of the Romanovs. Their ascension to the throne was the result of conspiracy, so they charged these historians with the mission of making Romanov's reign look legitimate. Fomenko proves Ivan the Terrible to be a collation of 4 rulers, no less. They represented the 2 rival dynasties, the legitimate rulers and the ambitious upstarts. Over some 30 years of controversy, Russian historians have made a most remarkable transition. They were initially accusing the young brilliant mathematician Fomenko of anti-communist dissident activity and attempts to deface the historical legacy of Soviet Russia. Nowadays the middle-aged mathematician is accused of adhering to pro-communist Russian nationalism, and defacing the proud historical legacy of Great Russia. The Westerners, because Fomenko blows consensual Russian history to smithereens, successfully removing a crucial cornerstone from underneath the otherwise impeccable edifice of world history. Fomenko adds insult to injury, wiping out one by one the ancient Rome. The foundation of Rome in Italy is dated to the 14th century AD, the ancient Greece and its numerous polis, which he identifies as the medieval crusader settlements on the territory of Greece. The ancient Egypt. The pyramids of Giza become dated to the 11th to 14th century AD and identified as the royal cemetery of the global Mongolian Empire, no less. The civilization of the ancient Egypt is irrefutably dated to the 11th to 15th century AD with the aid of the ancient Egyptian horoscopes cut in stone, like enormous dendra horoscope that hangs in main entrance to the Louvre Museum in Paris. He was the first one to decipher and date all such horoscopes, coming up with medieval dates in every case. English historians rage at the suggestion that the history of ancient England was de facto a Byzantine import transplanted to the English soil by the fugitive Byzantine nobility. To reward the English historians who consider themselves the true scribes of world history, the cover of the present book portrays Tintoretto's Jesus Christ crucified on the Big Ben. This literally means everything taught in school and otherwise has to be rewritten. For we have been deceived on an absolute grand scale. Unfortunately, the conspiratorial view of history is the correct version of our history. To say the conspiratorial view is the correct version is now an understatement.